Live from the campus of Southern University, it's the Bottom Line TV show, bringing real truth to today's problems. And now, your host for the Bottom Line TV show, Mr. Bruce Walker.
Thank you for joining us for the continuation of last week's Bottom Line with Dr. Ronald Mason. Welcome to this week's Bottom Line, which is a continuation of last week. And to God be the glory, Dr. Mason decided to stay and discuss with us what I think who would be a better person to weigh in on some of the things that we're seeing going on in our world today, far as the U.S., which is some of the social problems that we have. And, you know, Dr. Mason is a native New Orleans. He's from the streets of New Orleans, and evidently he's made it. So we're going to sit here for these next 30 minutes, and we're going to talk about Ferguson, and we're going to talk about Baltimore, and we're going to talk about Louisiana and some of the things that we need to be doing to make sure we don't end up a Ferguson or Baltimore right here. So thank y'all for joining us. Dr. Mason here again. Thank you for staying with us. And like I said in my intro, you obviously know what it takes to make it, being an African American and coming from a challenging past. And, you know, we got it a lot better because you did it back in the 50s and the 60s. So I believe you was right there at the edge of the civil rights movement and things like that. So, you know, I'd love for you to take a couple of minutes and weigh in on, you know, because for me, a lot of times we want to look at just what's going on right now today, but I don't think what we see today is a product of just a month ago. I think what we see today has a history. And, you know, being the great astute student of the world that you've been blessed to be over the last years, I'd like you to take a few minutes and weigh in on some of that. And before we do that, for those who may be joining us for the first time this week, tell them a little bit who you are, sir.
Yeah, I'm Ronald Mason. I'm the president of the Southern University and A&M College System.
Amen.
And just for the record, it wasn't the 50s and 60s. It was the 70s and 80s. I'm not that old yet. But I got your point. So, you know, I wasn't always a president of a university. In fact, you know, when I grew up, I wasn't real sure I was going to go to college at all. Didn't have a whole lot of money. Grew up right on the corner of Cleveland and Durbany in a shotgun house with 6 kids and my parents, you know. And most of the guys I went to school with either died or went to jail. That's just the reality of the situation, right? So not a lot of them are around. And, you know, if you ask me why I'm sitting here today, I think some of it had to do just with flat out luck, you know, right place at the right time. I had a mom that wouldn't let me stay out in the street, you know, at night and at least tried to make me do my homework and those sorts of things, you know. And the buddies that I do remember sort of had the same sort of blessings, you know, strong mothers, usually a father around.
Amen.
Because, you know, those streets, as you know, are not easy. And there's all kinds of things pulling on you out there, right? And then, you know, they're not much different today than they were back then, you know. In fact, some would say it's even worse. Back then, we didn't have integration, but even with integration now, we still got a horrible unemployment rate for black people, especially men. We still got more black people in jail than in the penal system, at least, than is in college, you know. It's just a horrible situation that is really rooted in, it's rooted in the way America was designed. You know, and if you want to talk a little bit about that, I can.
Please do. Take us to school, Doc, because that's what I believe. I think it goes way back to the design. You know, I read a very interesting sign saying that the system is broken. I don't believe the system is broken, Doc. I believe the system has done what it was intended to do. And now that enough of us are educated, you got to hide behind the system. The system is broken out. But I really don't think the system is broken.
No, I think it's doing what it was designed to do. I just wrote this piece in HBCU Digest, right, called Ferguson America. And, the whole point of the piece is that what's happening in Ferguson or Baltimore or take your pick, right, is really just an indication of the way America was set up and the consequences of that, right? So let's look at it this way. You had two problems that the Founding Fathers, when they set up this business operation they called America, remember, it was all about profits for them, okay? Man. They had one big problem, which was labor, okay? And their biggest concern was that the poor white labor and the poor black labor would get together and figure out that they had more in common with each other than they had with the guys that were worried about the profits, the Founding Fathers, right? Mm-hmm. So they came up with this really ingenious decision that they made, and it was a decision because they thought about it, they talked about it, and they decided to come up with this thing called slavery, right? Which did two things. One, it turned black people legally into animals. It turned them into chattel, cows, horses, right? Destroyed families, didn't let them get educations, and it's a horrible situation. But what that also did was it gave white people a lie that they believed, which was that they were better than black people and different from black people and more like the rich white people in the picture, the Founding Fathers, right? So that was the original setup. And if you follow that original setup through Jim Crow, through the war on drugs, you can see it's basically doing what it was originally designed to do, which is control black people and black labor, right? And put a divide between poor white people and poor black people. And the results are pretty clear. You got the highest unemployment rate, you got the highest incarceration rate, you got the highest infant mortality rate, all of this just for black people. And you can't have those kind of statistics specific about a specific ethnic group unless something is happening to make that happen. And what's happening is this original design, right? But the other thing you got is this. You got all these poor white people out here voting against their own interests just because they want to be something besides black. Okay? So that's why, Obama's doing all this great stuff for poor folks, right? Health care. But they hate the guy. Yeah. Why do they hate him? Because the system is set up for them to believe the lie as opposed to the truth, which is that they really have a lot more in common with poor and working poor black people than they do with the rich white people who got them to believe that they're more like them. Does that make sense?
Ooh. See, that's just plain, simple education. Yeah. And, that's going to the root of the modern day problem. So now, and if you understand that, my question is, have we come too far to reverse that? Because, you're talking about, just the war on drugs been 20 years. And prior to that, Jim Crow was another 40 years. You're talking about 60 years of intentional oppression. Yeah. Now, we're going to have to take a short break because we got a couple of bills to pay. But when we come back, I'd like you to weigh in on it from that perspective because we need some answers now. We done identified the true root cause of the problem. Now I'm going to ask you about some answers. Don't y'all move. We'll be right back.
For 20 years, First Choice has made your life better with our great selection of brand name furniture, electronics, and appliances at flexible payment plans to meet any budget. And at First Choice, there are no credit checks, no one's refused. Come into any First Choice location or shop online at firstchoicerto.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend A.J. Johnson with Baton Rouge AIDS Society. For the past 2 years, Baton Rouge has been number 1 in the country with the highest rate of AIDS cases. And 2 years before that, we were number 2 in the country. My thing is, let's be part of the solution and not the problem. Get tested, get your results, and get on with your life. If you think you don't have time to get tested, call 923-AIDS at Baton Rouge AIDS Society and become part of our Anytime Testing Program. We test 24/7, 365. No needles, no blood, and get your results in 20 minutes. Get tested and know your results.
Welcome back to the bottom line. And if y'all just joining us, we having some reality TV here this hour, this half hour, because we're talking about some societal things that's going on presently from Ferguson to Baltimore. Pick your city. But what we are looking at is really the root cause of Ferguson and Baltimore. And, what Dr. Mason was sharing with us is that this goes all the way back to the initial design of this country. And it was all about free labor. And, they had to create a separation. And that separation has been very much effective in carrying out the ultimate goal of the plan, which is to maximize profit for this country and for the people that have the wealth in this country. And, I always say, laws are not made to keep people in line. Laws are made so people can make money. Because if you don't have no laws in place, we gonna run rampant and can't nobody make money while y'all running rampant. So I don't think laws are just about, keeping people. Laws is about keeping people in line, Doc. But I'm gonna get off that soapbox and let you help.
But you're right, though, because remember, we don't live in a system of justice. We live in a system of law and order.
Amen.
You write the laws to maintain the order so people can make money. So you hit it on the head.
So that's why that show name Law and Order. Boom, boom. Right. With the boom, boom. You know what that mean? Boom, boom. Case closed. When they hit boom.
And
so
shut the door. Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Now, that's profound, Doc.
Well, you said it, man.
That's profound. Yeah. So, but back to our modern day problem that we've identified. So if you have that type of insight into the origin of this problem, share with us some of your thoughts on what is the cure other than prayer, because we praying every day, but it's going to take a little more than prayer as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a couple of things. One, first, let's look at America and the promise of America and the future of America, okay? The idea of slavery and the consequences of slavery really wasn't what the promise was, right? And the founding fathers understood the idea and the ideal, but the money issue won out in that conversation, okay, which it usually does, right? But as we sit here today, the real question is, even if let's say that business decision back then made sense, it clearly doesn't make any sense right now, okay, because it's expensive. It costs you an education. It destroys communities. And what it really does ultimately is impacts our ability to compete on a global scale. See, because in a global economy, you got to have all hands on deck, and you can't have, a whole segment of your economy uneducated, unhealthy, and unproductive. So it's really in the nation's best interest to figure out a way to solve this problem, because as we sit here today, what might have made sense to them 200 years ago, if they think about it, doesn't make any sense right now.
Man, I got chills.
Yeah.
I got chills, Doc, because that's profound right there.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. That model that they implemented 200 years, that ain't working today. And, the most valuable commodity America has ever had is being swept away, which is the American male. We are losing them at an alarming rate, Doc, and that's preached.
Well, we're losing them, but there was an article in the New York Times that said that, and I'm not going to remember the exact number, but the title of the article was something like "The Missing Black Man," and it talked about the fact that I think one out of every four men in this country who are black are just missing. They either die off or they are in jail, and they're not present in the communities anymore, right? And that's not the case with white men. It's about a 1-to-1 deal there, right? With white men and women. But for black men and women, it's about, I think, 4 or 5 women to every man, right? Which has all sorts of implications about the family, about the community, about the children that you're raising without fathers in the household, right? So it's a big, big issue. And the facts are pretty clear. But there's another side to it, which is that it's hard for people to get, especially people in power, to see past the money and to get to a point of what I would call enlightened self-interest, right? Because the money always gets in the way. And you can see in America, the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, right? So despite the promise of America and the hope for enlightened self-interest, at the end of the day, it really is about us taking care of us, you know, which brings you right back to HBCUs, see, because HBCUs are the only black institutions that were designed to deal with this issue of the design of America and keep America together while America tries to figure out how to solve this problem. And we're at most risk now, you know, in terms of institutions in higher education, because there's a lot of effort out there to get rid of HBCUs. Which brings me to the 5/5 Agenda for America. I talked about it early on in the program when I first were here months ago, right? But it's something we put together at Southern to what we say, make America whole. You know, the 3/5 compromise in the Constitution counted black people as 3/5 of a human being, right? So the 5/5 Agenda is about making America whole by reclaiming and developing black male human capital. And the pilot project we're working with the Ronald Walters Center at Howard. They're doing policy and research analysis, those sorts of things. We're working with the Southern Initiative of the Algebra Project to get into the K-12 system and start to solve that problem in there. And then the main component is the Honore Center, named after Russell Honore, the general in New Orleans. Well, we're taking these young men who are predicted to graduate at a 20% rate from college, right? And we're putting them through a process now. We're looking at 80% success rates in terms of retention. And some of these young men, in fact, 2 of them just made the honor roll at SUNO, you know, and they weren't predicted to do anything in college. So we think we've got something here that is helping us reclaim and develop black male human capital in a way that can be replicated at HBCUs around the country.
And what do y'all call it? Black male human capital.
Yeah, exactly. That's business terms. We got to translate it.
Golly, that is such a cold title. Black male human capital. And that's what we've always been throughout history. Yeah, black male human capital. Golly, that's tough, Doc. You know, we got to take another short break. Man, I could keep you here for weeks and weeks. I know you got to go, but we're going to wrap some stuff up in this last segment because there's a couple of things I want you to specifically share with us. And, you know, I'd like you to give us a farewell before you leave as well. So don't y'all move. We'll be right back.
You only download one app. That app should be Four Woes. And now, the last Sunday of each month, someone's going to win a Four Woes app gift bag. Just click on the menu tab at the bottom and like our Facebook page. It's that easy. Then write a quick post so we know who you are. Just simply state, I should get the gift bag because it's that simple. Remember, the last Sunday of each month, we'll pick a winner.
Let First Choice entertain you. Get a 42-inch flat screen HD TV, audio bar, and Blu-ray player with Wi-Fi for just $19.99 a week. Plus, get a $6 Redbox gift card as long as you rent. Come to any First Choice location for details or go to firstchoicerto.com.
Louisiana Laserderm. We are a cosmetic laser facility and treat all skin types and colors and specialize in African American skin. We offer hair and tattoo removal. Do you want to get rid of that stubborn fat and cellulite with our new Venus Freeze? Men and women, come in, get rid of those irritating ingrown hairs and razor bumps on your face or anywhere on the body with just one hair removal treatment. Call Louisiana Laserderm at 490-9090 and check out our monthly specials on Facebook and online at lalasderderm.com.
Welcome back to the Bottom Line. And if y'all just joining us, man, y'all have missed a blessing and a wealth of wisdom. And you know, before we wrap it up here, it's a couple of things that I'd like to conclude on. One is, as the community, how can we help Southern down the road? And number two, how do we learn more about this 5/5 agenda and how do we get involved? Because, you know, collectively, we need to help implement this new plan. And, I like to say, first of all, in no way that I'm racist, Doc. I love the Lord. I met Jesus when I was trying to get through Southern nursing program, and he changed my life. So I understand we all come from one race, which is the human race. But at the same time, we all owe each other an obligation to take care of everybody. And when some people don't do it, some other people got to pick up the ball and take on that burden. And hats off for you to always being one of those people who've picked up that ball and taken on that burden. So now, let's start off with Southern. The challenges that they're facing as the community. What can we do to assure that there'll be a Southern for my kids to go to? And I got 114. So we ain't talking about in 20 years. Right. We talking about in 5 years, Doc.
Sure. So a few things I think are important. One, this is a tough legislative session right now. And pick up the phone, email your legislators and tell them how important it is for Southern, not only to help fix the problems for higher education, but to find some extra money for Southern to be able to plug the holes that it has to plug until it can transition to this new business model. I want to call out Preston Castile, the president of the Alumni Federation.
Amen.
Providing great leadership. I think you should reach out to him. Reconnect with the Alumni Federation. And then also the foundation at sus.edu, the True Blue campaign. Money helps, always helps, right? We got to pay for legislative advisors and those sorts of things. So you can go to that website, foundation at sus.edu, make a small donation. Nothing is too small.
Amen.
And then finally, about the 1880 Society. That's 200 plus now, almost 300. You were one of the originals.
Yes, sir.
But I'm calling them the founders of the new Southern that were building on the foundations of the past, right? All of these are important components, and if you can't find a way to plug into one of those, right, then you really got to ask yourself how important Southern is to you.
Golly, so there are a diverse ways of the public reaching out and getting involved to make sure that this university will be here not just 5 years, but another 50 years from now. And, audience, it's on us. A lot of times there's a lot of people out there working tirelessly to make things happen. But if, like the words say, faith without works is dead. So if you just praying and ain't doing nothing, well, we calling on you to do something now, because it's going to take everybody to make sure that these HBCUs exist over the next 15, 20 years.
Yeah, one other thing, Bruce, one important.
Please.
Send your child there.
Amen.
Talk to your child about going there because, despite all the challenges, Southern is still a solid institution of higher learning. You can get in through the community college and still be on the four-year campus, so you don't have to go to Shreveport now. You can be in New Orleans, you can be in Baton Rouge, or you can go straight to the four-year school in New Orleans or in Baton Rouge. So there's all sorts of ways to get a quality education, and enrollment is just as important as everything else.
And I think that avenue that y'all have made for the community college is important for us older adults, because a lot of times now we finding ourselves trying to find a way to re-educate ourselves so we could be more competitive in this competitive job market. Absolutely. So that's another avenue that us older adults can use to get that training. So, just hats off to all of the wonderful things that y'all are doing and continue to do to try to make this thing work for everybody. Now, the other thing you talked about was this 5-5 agenda, the new plan for America. Don't nobody know about it, Doc. We need to know about that. We need to know, how do I find more information? How do I get involved in that? Because it's time for us to be serious about reclaiming America's most precious commodity. And for me, that was the black man, because he did his share in making America what it is today. And for his outcome to be the way it is, especially after you've researched and studied me for the last 40, 50 years, come on, man, y'all owe us a little more than that. So tell us, how do we get involved and how do we find more out about that 5-5 agenda?
Sure. So it's the 5-5 agenda for America. Okay, that's important, because this really is about changing America over the course of a generation.
Amen.
And the goals are to increase the number of black male teachers, to put them back into the K-12 system, increase the number of black male graduates from college, bring truth to the conversation about the relationship between black men in America.
Ooh.
And then fourth, to establish historically black universities as institutional bases for this long-term systemic change. Okay, so those are the goals. Now, and it's still in the early stages, but we've had good success with student outcomes. We've gotten the major foundations to help fund it, and that's going to be good over time. The state of Louisiana has helped support it.
Amen.
Right now, we got a YouTube site. You can just go search for 5/5 Agenda for America, and you can see the YouTube site. And then the Honorary Center for Undergraduate Student Achievement, which is showing really good results in terms of taking young men that are predicted to fail and turning them not only into successes, but stars. In fact, we say we go out and look for these hidden stars and enable them to shine. You can go to the SUNO websites, suno.edu, look for the Honorary Center, and you can see how your child might be able to get into that program. And the good side of it is that if they get in, they basically get a free ride as long as they're in the program. And the way they pay us back is by teaching 2 years in the public school system that they came from.
Man, I get chills. So, but see, I can't hear about this on TV, and that's what I believe make this show so important, because whether they like it or not, we're going to be a medium here for a very long time, and we're going to bring forth this type of knowledge and wisdom and resources and make it available to the community. Now, what they do with it, you know what the old folks say, you could bring the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Right. But I know when I stand before my judgment seat on that day, I ain't going to have to worry about, well, did I do what I was supposed to do? So, Doc, we about to lose you, and this here at the Bottom Line will always be a medium for whatever you're doing, especially that 5/5 agenda. So whenever you want to come and sit and share some more about that 5/5 agenda, you're always welcome. You always be a friend of mine, Doc. Right. If I could ever do anything for you, call me. Before you leave, tell them a nice farewell, young man.
Well, let me say this first of all. The respect and admiration I have for the work you're doing. I know this is a one-man operation. I know you pay for it, you produce it, you host it, and you're doing a great job and a real service to the community. So I want to say thank you. Right?
Thank you, sir.
And then at the end of the day, I just want to say, I'm leaving, but I'm not dead. I still believe in HBCUs.
Amen.
We still will have the Honorary Center at the Southern University of New Orleans, which I will be very much involved in as part of the 5/5 Agenda for America. And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I'm still going to pray that God bless the Jaguar Nation.
Amen. Amen. And with that being said, that's the bottom line.
Video by TMB Productions, shot on the campus of Southern University. Set provided by First Choice Furniture. Contact the Bottom Line at contact@thebottomlinetvshow.com. This has been an AG production.